I change the kind of topic today and move to the insight, emotion inside of us and of me again, uh, of me as well. And today I'm on topic how to truly forgive other people. I feel like I need forgive other people, and I don't have idea how to do it truly. This blog from my cafe on medium.com, how to truly forgive other people, and written by Jessica Fan. And mistakes are inevitable. Forgiveness is the key to peace of of mind in the face of betrayal and adversity. Search the word forgive, and the term is synonymous with pardon, absolve, and exonerate, to allow the offender to be excused of guilt, obligation, or responsibility, while we continue to be chained down and left to deal with our pain alone. It is that trope that makes us hesitant to practice forgiveness. By not forgiving, we have a reason to be upset. It because a defense mechanism that holds someone else accountable for the drift or distress that, in truth, we ourselves are choosing to hold into. However, forgiveness is not about condoning what has happening. It is accepting that is that this event did happen. Frankly, forgiveness is giving up hope that the past can be any different, and untying the knot of our own emotions so that the past doesn't hold us a prisoner. This thought can be even more confronting, leaving behind all that emotional baggage that gave us a twist sense of security when we were consumed by loss or betrayal. betrayal. But forgiveness is ultimately a lengthy test of resilience, a test that, if we pass and can wholeheartedly forgive, set up free. The danger of prolonged resentment, prolonged resentment, holding onto anger causes real struggle and suffering. Studies show that ruminating excessively on negative events it is the biggest predictor of depressions and anxiety. Again, uh, ruminating ruminating excessively on negative events is the biggest predictor of dis- depression and anxiety. We become mentally absent, are most likely to experience distress, and will have less energy because of that. When our minds are not at ease, we turn to destructive habits to channel the rage within us. We might over over indulge overindulge to suppress the despair, or overwork to avoid feeling pain. Any of these reactions make our bodies release cortisol, our state hormone. cortisol, and suppress our immune system as our blood vessel narrow. If this happens too frequently, it increases our risk of heart attacks and strokes. A study by the University of Georgia also confirmed that bearing grudges is associated with a history of pain disorder and stomach ulcer. Socially, our trapped emotion can damage our relationships as we are prone to making wrong assumptions and misinterpreting behavior. If we continue to dwell on a fair friendship, we can become more distant, and this will color our attitudes toward future camara- camaraderie with others. The power of forgiveness. On the flip side, a growing number of studies over the last few decades have examined the therapeutic effects of forgiveness. It is connected to better sleep and lower rates of cognitive decline. People who are more forgiving report better health in general, less pain and chronic illness, and recorded lower mortality rates. Robert Enright, the founder of International Forgiveness Institute, believes forgiveness becomes habitual. The more we can forgive, the better we are at it. This mental freedom is reflected onto our body as we can heal faster from old scars and have better chance to avoid relapsing on certain diseases. Finally, an interesting study by the University of California discovered that participants who forgive more willingly performed better in a jumping activity compared to those who were not so willing to forgive. It is almost as if we readily become lighter as the weight of resentment had lifted. How to forgive? We should never be focused or guilt try trip into forgiving if our reasons are due to external influences such as religious faith or for the sake of our relationships. We may feel greater resentment instead of desire peace, even if our minds may be persuaded by the benefits. Our heart may not be convinced. In fact, no one can force us to forgive. We must truly want it for ourselves. We may discover an angry flame that is not ready to die down. It may be too fresh of a wound, and we haven't grieved it properly. And it's okay. Forgiveness should not be rushed. We let go of the past and we move on at our own pace. Don't ever feel guilty for taking time to heal. Okay? Be with our emotions. That said, the the best thing we should do before any attempts to move forward is giving ourselves permission to feel the emotions and recognizing them for what they are. For forgiveness to be authentic and helpful. We need to grapple with our furry sadness and vulnerability. Some of us never even let ourselves feel angry. Yet suppressing such emotion is not a healthy method of dealing with overwhelm. Over time, we should reflect on why we have these feelings. It is useful to list all the emotions, misses opportunities, and sacrifice we had to go through because of what happened. By doing so, we are certain that we are dealing with everything and not just a section of the issue. Often, we may have officially forgiven someone, but there are still some symptoms of unresolved hurt leaking out dispro- dispropor- disproportionately. For example, we may have forgiven on we may have forgiven one of our parents for abusing the others, but we might not have dealt with the fact that they damage our chance of having a carefree, innocent childhood. We may distance ourselves for romantic relationships because we don't want to face the sort of abuse modeled by our parents. Any continuous disturbance linked to that negative experience mean that we haven't genuinely forgiven. True forgiveness is designed to set us free. So if we still feel like we've been held captive, we haven't reached that freedom yet. The importance of establish boundaries. The importance of establishing boundaries. When we've plainly laid out every thought linked to this unpleasant issue, we can sort thought what we believe is and isn't acceptable. In other words, we establish our boundaries. Healthy boundaries are necessary components of self-care. Even without them, we become prone to feeling depleted, taken advantage of, or intruded upon. Hence, boundaries are a reflection of self-respect as they force us to maintain a clearer and more consistent approach to our relationships and values. When we establish boundaries, we are also assessing what we are forgiving. It's important to emphasize that this doesn't mean condoning the action. Forgiveness is accepting that we cannot argue with reality, but we are deciding to grow from that pain hereafter. With our boundaries, we actively choose to have open discussions with our partner, but never belittle who they are as a person. We can debate with them in front of our children, but in the light of kindness to teach our kids teamwork and harmony. We should learn from our past and determine how to be better than our experiences, better than our offenders. Again, we should learn from our past and determine how to be better than our experience, but than our offender, better than our offender. Showing compassion. If we set aside judgment and look at the person in the sprint of understanding, we see things that haven't been visible before. They may have behaved that way because their life was every bit insecure and painful, and hence have reached this position without meaning to. Every action is rooted in trauma encountered before someone could cope with it properly. Understanding the reasons for certain behaviors will leave us better positioned to forgive the past. Again, this is not accusing or reconciling. It doesn't mean we must have a relationship with the transgressor. However, if we continue to open our hearts to other people and acknowledge how they too have suffered, the surround inside us can transform into compassion for everyone, including ourselves. Reframing the situation. Reframing the situation by considering what the other people, what the other person may have felt, or the reason behind their actions. This helps us reframe the sit- situation situation with less bias. We should write a recount as if we are an officer. Remove any emotion, justification, bias, or subjectiveness, and allow the recall of events to be factual, just like a police report. We gather evidence from different perspectives to understand what happened on a deeper level. When we review our objective summary, we should list all the choice of what that event can mean to us. We can't go back and change the past, but we can choose what we decide to make meaningful. The more we tell a certain story, the mental connections in our brains deepen, and it can start to define who we are. Are we a suffering victim of abuse, or are we a survivor of injustice who will empower others through our resilience? Read, writing, writing a letter. If we cannot find ourselves able to move on, this is an effective exercise highlighted in Olivia Fox Caban's The Charisma Myth, Charisma Math, which teach us to let all the anger out by writing a letter to the offender. We then write a letter addressed to ourselves, pretending to be the person responding to our original letter. We should write about how sorry they are for hurting us and tell the things we wish they would say. Read this letter frequently until the anger fire within us died out. Obviously, the person that committed a wrong against us wouldn't be writing the letter because the reality is sometimes we won't receive an apology. But by convincing our minds that these words came from them, we give ourselves that will deserve closure, that will allow us to move on as the stronger person. Forgiving ourselves. We are by default our own har- harshest critics. It's evolutionary for us to be this way. Back when being accepted into a tribe was a matter of survival, we need to perform well as our life could count on it. Even if this has changed, the fear of making a mistake as a perception of incompetence continues. Most of us learn early to on to avoid missteps at all costs, and when we do make one, our first impulse is to hide it. It's helpful to remember that mistakes, failures, and the choice we deeply regret are how we learn and grow. Instead of overthinking the consequence, we should consider lessons from our action and see them as an opportunity to discover more about ourselves. Remember, resilience isn't about ignoring and pushing stress away. It's about negative thing. It's about navigating our feeling and learning how we can improve next time. Forgiving ourselves is the willingness to see us in the light of love rather than our action. We are humans after all, and humans make mistakes. I wish that these techniques could help us forget what has happened, but forgiveness doesn't constitute eliminating these experiences from our memories. Moreover, it does not give us immunity over pain and sadness. Grief can still come back to haunt us. This is because forgiveness is a process, it's not destination where the end goal is to get over it, but rather it's learning curve. We'll go through ups and downs, periods of happiness followed by sadness. It's going to be excruciatingly painful. But remember, life makes us stronger and give us freedom when we can overcome hardship. This is all from my cafe medium.com. Thank you so much.